We have for years kind of evolved our efforts there. Many of you who've lived here for a long time know that, I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago before West Nile became an issue, we just didn't spray at all. Never sprayed. And it was because of the concern that there was really questionable about its positive effect. Does that really help spray mosquitoes when they're all back kind of in the creek beds and you're spraying down the street? That said, over the years, many people have provided feedback to the contrary of your suggestion, which have led us to start to spray and/or larvicide in examples of what you're talking about. So we have tried to be as minimally invasive there as possible, trying to get the larvicide on city property, encouraging you all to do it with the donuts, the dunks, that you can control it yourself or get rid of the water in the first place. But when we do have a hot mosquito trap where we have verified a West Nile infected mosquito, we then spray in a targeted area around that location. So the reason spraying started in your particular area is because we had a trap and it captured a West Nile infected mosquito, and as part of our protocol, we then spray, and I think is it a mile or a reference? So it's less about half a mile in circumference. I understand your concern. We have heard other concerns over the years which have led to this kind of incremental approach, and we can work on our signage. And I would encourage all of you, if you haven't, to kind of follow us on social media and things like that. So if you're on Facebook or Twitter or anything like that, or checking on our webpage, we try to push out that kind of information with kind of real-time updates. So that's another way. So we'd encourage you to pay attention there. So thank you. Yes, sir.
Mark, I want to talk about the train. I've noticed
stop circling.
The trains are blocking up Collins and Stadium Drive. Last night was a long, long way. I know that the city was talking about a bridge underneath the train tracks at Stadium Drive. And I researched a little bit of it, but I would like to see that the city go on and build that. I know they've had a little hiccup on it, but it seems like to me that that was so minute in the impact study that should have been taken care of and moved on. That is one of the things. Second, on your website, you have, I've said this several times, for the meetings for the city, it should be right on the front page, what the meeting times are, like a little calendar. And when you click on it, it tells all the events, because you've got to go through like 3 pages to get there. If you don't know exactly, as a matter of fact, I wasn't sure this was going on. If it hadn't been for my card that I had, and I was late, and I got on the website and I couldn't find it. And I've had one of the city council help me one time, but if I sleep, I forget. So, but that is one of the things I really think the website, I'll put that right up there on the front page, a little calendar where you can hit tap on it and boom, you're there, you know what's going on. Number 3 of my things that I would like to see happen is Collins Street, south of Park Road. It really needs to be repaired. And I've noticed throughout the city that they would come in, that is concrete, and they would come in and replace that. And we have lived with this for quite a long time, and it seems like to me that it should be done, especially since we had a street bond package.
Thank you for those questions. I believe that Collins Street is part of the most recent bond election that was approved. Keith, what's the tentative date on the rebuild of that?
Signed 2018, construction 2019.
Okay, so 2018 and 19 is the plan for that section of Collins. It has been authorized by the voters. We've got 5 years worth of programs, and we're prioritizing and working through the project, so that project will happen eventually. On our website, I would encourage you to go to the front page. If you go down below, I believe there's a calendar section in the middle of that. on the front page. Now, it only lists about 8 events, so sometimes you have to click view all events to pull up the rest of the deal. And honestly, we need to do a better job of making sure all the events are on there. But if you go to the front page, there is a calendar on there. That's what I was trying to pull up. Maybe Mike can do that here in just a second. So yeah, he's pulling up the front page and then scroll down right there, calendar of events. So that if you go over, you click on all events, you're able to pull down a month by month calendar. So we need to do a good job organizationally to feed it the right way, but I agree with you on that. And then remind me of your first question.
The first question is the bridge.
Oh, the bridge. Okay, yes, sir. So that decision has been made on the bridge. And in fact, we are getting ready now to go to construction on that, which there is no bridge. It is an at-grade separation. The council talked about that about 18 months or so ago, over multiple council meetings. It was controversial. There were thoughts on both sides of it. What ultimately drove the decision is a financial decision. Like what we've talked about tonight, a lot of these questions are priorities. Which is more important, this project or that project? So on the bridge, what turned out to be, I think at the time, was anticipated to be a $15 million project. Cost estimates were doubled, and all of a sudden it was a $30 million project. The railroad made a lot of requirements on us to build extra capacity that was not envisioned. So then the question as a city manager is, okay, I know we would like to have an underpass in an optimal situation. The city council, before I just go double the price on this, I need to ask your opinion about this. And then we debated that and talked about that and made a different decision, which is to go at grade. Then we take the dividend off that we would have otherwise spent, we put it on other projects in town. So one of the dividends off that project is Center Street between Arkansas and Mayfield, I believe, thereabouts. That whole area is being redone. One of the lady on Mitchell Street, it was worse than Mitchell Street. One of the worst streets in the city. It's about probably another 3 months till that's complete. But it's a function of how do we put our capital dollars to work? We spend $30 million on this one project and do what I think many people would love to have done. But in a pragmatic way, does it make sense to do less here and do more in other locations in the city? So it's a fair point, but I think it's also a fair point that other decisions were made. But that decision has been made, and we're moving forward. Contract actually has been awarded, and construction will begin expediently here in the near future. Yes, sir.
My question is, since I work a lot with young men, the number one problem that most young men have is unemployed. They don't have a way to work. And Arlington is the #1 city in the United States without public transportation. Now I know that T has offered it at a 0.5% sales tax. And we won't even come out of Arlington pocket at all for them to have that. And, you know, what I'm trying to find out is why don't we get that opportunity to vote if we want to have public transportation or not, besides this being shut down from the inside and no one from the outside getting that opportunity to vote.
Okay. Good question. And for those of us who've been here for a while, know that it's a question that has been put to the voters about 3 different times in the last 25 years. And when they vote on a question, they vote on what is the plan and what is the funding for the plan. And ultimately, those decisions were made to not provide that service in the community. I've talked about choices. The voters were asked those choices for those specific plans and funding sources and declined to do so. That said, the last one of those, I don't know, was 12 years or so ago, maybe a little longer. And so what we have done is make some kind of more surgical improvements, which is that MAC service, which connects us to the regional rail. So when the rail runs between Dallas and Fort Worth, and for the $5 from College Park, you can get anywhere in the Dallas-Fort Worth region. So not ideal, but it does provide connection to the regional framework. And it is very limited and surgical there. Now, I alluded earlier that we'll be having some planning over the next year or two to determine what the future of transportation is in town. Does it stay how it is? Does it go backwards? Does it go forward? That's defined by multiple people, multiple ways. So I do think down the road there'll be a question about what is the future of rail in the region and how does Arlington fit and how does that service work. but that's to be determined. So,
You know, the test pilot, when they're running, the T from UTA to the rail.
yes.
And they run direct, during the Cowboy game, the T runs directly from downtown Fort Worth, directly to the stadium.
That latter part's not exactly accurate. So the rail runs to the northern part of the city and into Dallas-Fort Worth, so there's no rail line that runs commuter rail to the stadium. Those lines are freight lines through town, but no rail. But we do continue to run the MAX service from UTA up to the rail line and let you get elsewhere in the region or elsewhere from the region into the core and the heart of Arlington, which is this downtown university area. So I would encourage you to pay attention to that issue over the next 12 to 24 months and see where things go. I don't know where it's going to go, but I know we're going to undertake a kind of a planning effort, and there'll be opportunity for public involvement to let us know what your impression and thoughts are. Okay, well, this is one of our best attended town hall meetings that we've had, so I thank you for attending tonight. I will hang around up front in case there's a question you'd like to ask that you didn't want to ask in front of everybody else. So if you want to come down, I'd be happy to do that. Or if in the meantime, if you want to send an email or something, feel free to do that. We'll try to get you an answer. And if you want to participate at the alternative meeting that's going to be next week, feel free to join us in the south part of town. And watch the process, participate as you like between now and September 15th when council will ultimately decide what our priority investments will be going into FY16. So thank you for being here, and have a good evening.